The automotive industry is meeting the need for a greener economy. They're doing it head-on. One example of this is Nissan's electric car, the Leaf. It's the first mass-produced zero-emission car, and 15,000 people already use it across the globe. It's set to be launched here in South Africa in the year 2013. Lionel Skink spoke to Pierre Loing, who's Vice President of Product Planning at Nissan. That was at the Johannesburg International Motorshow.
I'm standing in front of the all-new Nissan Leaf motor car. It looks like any other motor car that you'll see on the road. It's got rubber wheels, it's got a bonnet, it's got a boot, and it's got an accelerator. But this is not just like any other car, apparently, because if you look a bit closer here, there's no exhaust pipe. We're talking zero emissions. I'm talking zero emissions, and this is what you call carbon-free technology. And the man behind this car is Monsieur Pierre Loing, the man that actually came up with this car. Monsieur Loing, this car is not a hybrid. Can we get that correct?
It's not a hybrid. As you can see on the car, it's zero emission. It does not emit any exhaust gas, and there is no exhaust pipe.
The difference between this car and the hybrid car?
Difference is that it relies purely on electricity to be driven. So there are batteries under the floor pan of this vehicle, and those batteries provide the energy to move the car.
Can you take us around this car and just tell us about some of the salient points that you have on this car?
Sure, yeah. The first thing is you can see it's a normal car. The only exception is there is no tailpipe. There is a solar panel here on top of the spoiler that we use to recharge the accessories, like the radio, for example. And the other noticeable difference is the fuel lid. In fact, there is no pipe either. There are two plugs. One is this plug, which we use here for standard charge at home, and this one is the plug that we use for quick charging on a dedicated charging point. The difference is standard charge, you recharge full capacity of your battery in 8 hours, overnight for example. Quick charge, you recharge up to 80% in half an hour.
When was this car actually made?
But this car, this was launched in America and in Japan at the end of 2010 and was launched in Europe early 2011. As of today, 15,000 customers around the world drive this car.
We understand the rationale behind this car. Global warming is very important. Right now it's become a very big issue. But how practical is this car?
I believe this car is as practical as any other car, as long as your daily trip is not above probably up to a maximum of 150 kilometers. The range in Europe is 175, in Japan is 200 because the cycle is slightly different. So if your daily trip is less than say 150, you can use this car every day. And just for reference, in Europe, 80% of the daily trips are below 80 kilometers.
What is your vision for this car on the African continent?
We clearly believe that this car has an interest worldwide, including the African continent. As of now, of course, discussions are starting, especially here in South Africa, where we are today. There are exchanges between Nissan and the South African authorities, because to launch this car, because it's such a technological breakthrough, we need to rely on some sort of support, and that's why we launch it wherever we get that type of support first.
Will such a car put any strain on the electricity grid?
I don't believe so, because on the one hand, the usual pattern of recharging is at night time, so at off-peak time, which on the contrary is interesting for utility companies, because utility companies have to size their production capacity for peak times, which means that at off-peak times, the capacity is used for nothing. It could be used for the car. At the same time, in an environment when there are cut-offs, because maybe the grid is not so strong, you can also assume that this car has the capacity to power your house. In Japan, during the earthquake, we've seen that some people use the car to power their house. You have to know that at full capacity, the car, the Nissan Leaf, is capable of giving energy to your house for 2 consecutive days.